Welcome to Fusionverse, a show where we talk about anime, TV shows, movies, and games. And if you don't know, obviously I am starting to stream all my videos live on Instagram and sometimes on Twitch, but you can always catch them on Instagram. Now, to get to the meat and potatoes, we are talking about New Japan Pro Wrestling versus World Wrestling Entertainment. Now, you may not be a fan. You may not even know what's going on. You may have heard of these companies, just wrestling in general. But I'm going to kind of break it down to you on why one company is better than the other. And what you're going to get to see the outcome, okay? Now, first up, of course, are the matches. The matches that WWE has, as well as New Japan. In comparison, honestly, New Japan hits it out of the park. WWE has SmackDown and Raw. NXT is kind of a separate entity. It usually doesn't really get acknowledged by main roster, so we're going to be excluding that because it's just not part of the main content that it's providing. So, with that in mind, let's get to it. New Japan has had some of the most incredible matches I have ever seen. And if you know anyone who knows this person, Dave Meltzer, you kind of get the drift of where that's going. Because they have a lot of, there's a star ranking of matches. 1 star being the lowest, or 0 stars for that matter, as well as 2, 3 or and a half, or whatever it is that, you want to rank them. But New Japan has just come out with stellar matches from S to 5. 5-star matches, which being exceeding the 4. 4-star ranking is usually was the highest, then came 5, and then most recently, I believe 6 or possibly even 7. Regardless, though, New Japan hits it out of the park. WWE has just let down the fans every time. There's just so much to be, so much to be had. They have so much potential that he just lets everyone down. I frankly just stopped watching WWE. I try to keep up with SmackDown at times. However, Raw in general is pretty goddamn atrocious. Okay, I don't know how they're able to do something so horrible. The storylines are really bad. That's actually another topic. But let's stick to the wrestling in general. Yeah, in wrestling, they really don't, WWE doesn't really have that many stellar matches. Obviously, the superstars are on the road quite a lot, so that could kind of prevent them from competing at top tier levels. However, there are a few wrestlers that still manage to do so. For instance, AJ Styles. However, AJ Styles is not a homegrown wrestler. In fact, he came from TNA, and originally I believe that he was in WCW for a short amount of time, and did make an appearance in WWE as a tryout, but they didn't want him. Over time, of course, he was in TNA or Impact Wrestling now, or whatever the hell the name is that they're going by now. But he made it. He made it so entertaining, along with Samoa Joe and Bobby Roode. However, don't forget Eric Young as well. But all these wrestlers, these key wrestlers that made it big, over TNA's downfall led to them just going to other promotions like New Japan, Ring of Honor. But WWE just hasn't had that it factor. It doesn't really make you want to go stay tuned. I don't really want to dedicate about 3 hours of my life to just watching garbage. I'm just not going to do it anymore. I prefer doing something else, something more actually productive. So with that being said, I'm just kind of refusing to watch Raw right now. There really isn't anything that's gonna draw me back in. Obviously, WWE is doing well for itself in comparison to New Japan, but with wrestling, a lot of other people are just looking for that. They're looking for something for these stars that are really entertaining, but they have these wrestling abilities, these abilities that they just work hard for. And you get to see that in New Japan. That's like New Japan, to me, wins in that category. It is just so dominant with the amount of wrestling that it has. And another thing is the fact that the way it treats its wrestlers. They treat them with the utmost respect. Sure, there are wrestlers who lose, wrestlers who win, who are more dominant over other wrestlers. However, there are times where some wrestlers win over others. There's a wrestler known as Toru Yano. He's become quickly one of my favorites. He is what people consider kind of like a comedic wrestler, kind of like that of Santino Morella in WWE was, or who else? Honestly, like the Fashion Police, I guess, comedic type of wrestlers, but still is able to get a win. If you don't know who Kota Ibushi is, he's an amazing top tier wrestler, and they had a match, and Yano won. This individual won, and for me, that was just incredible because you wouldn't really even see anything like that in WWE, and he won in an incredible fashion. It honestly was amazing to see that, as well as his own wrestling abilities. Because usually these types of wrestlers they consider also as jobbers, and they just make them job to other wrestlers. They basically that's all they do. Where they lose, like Heath Slater, for instance, he's someone from WWE that just gets mistreated. He's had opportunities on SmackDown, but after being transferred to Raw, it just went downhill. He hasn't really done much. Another wrestler, Kurt Hawkins, he made his return back to WWE only to become just another jobber, and he has a losing streak going on. Which honestly, this is just really sad, and it's just disappointing. There's a lot of just how they treat other wrestlers as well. They treat top tier wrestlers with a great amount of respect, but also low tier of wrestlers in New Japan, where WWE it's like not really. Usually, like some wrestlers don't even get the attention that they deserve, and with that in mind, I believe that the amount of respect goes to New Japan and not WWE. It's really disconcerting to see that because there's a lot of wrestlers that have so much talent, and sometimes they leave WWE and go, to the indies where they become bigger stars. However, that's not always the case. Often the lead wrestlers want to stay there because of the check. They want to see that WWE logo there. They just want to be seen. And honestly, that's pretty disappointing. Another thing, another difference, I guess, between New Japan and WWE is the storytelling. A lot of the story is very different because they have different dynamics. WWE usually dedicates maybe 20 minutes or something from the beginning of Raw or SmackDown, and just to storytelling, to try to kind of tell these individuals kind of attacking one another or throughout the show as well. So you don't really get to see really that much wrestling. Some wrestling matches are cut short. Sometimes it's just erratic, where storylines just change dramatically due to certain circumstances, or Vince just changing his mind. However, in New Japan, it's a very different dynamic that I'm trying to get used to because, yeah, WWE has a lot of bad storylines, but somewhere in there is probably a good gem. Probably. As of late, I have not seen that, so I just refuse to watch it. It's really bad. But New Japan has this other different dynamic where they tell this story in the ring, as well as some wrestlers who do speak English. They talk about kind of like a rivalry type thing, or they put this thing where they in their promos and they have very small promos. Sometimes in interviews in the back. Sometimes on their social media sites or on YouTube. It's very interesting, this different dynamic, but you do kind of have to go there. But they tell the storytelling in the ring, as well as these rivalries where they're attacking one another viciously, might I add. It's not something that normally you would even see in WWE. It just you really wouldn't see that often, or probably at all. But yes, you see the progression of these wrestlers and just what they're feeling, what they want to do, what they want to accomplish. And then you see prestige in them. You see exactly how challenging something can be. Sometimes the announcer will be like, yeah, this person's been, on a losing streak. They really need this win. And then, bam, they manage to get it. And you see that through the progression, where it's you see the struggle. You see them actually struggling to get to the top. You see them trying to become something more. And in WWE, you don't really get to see that. The top wrestlers usually just stay on top. Unless they don't have anything, then they just move them down to mid-card level, where they basically just have them win the IC title on Raw, and that's basically and treated like garbage. You know, they do it a lot in WWE where the storytelling, sure, they have some good stories, but a lot of it just kind of falls flat. As well as, like, I mean, how often can they kind of do that, come up with new material? A lot of it is technically just reused and rehashed over and over. And you could say the same thing about New Japan. However, New Japan has this different dynamic where sometimes it has surprises where they do have this dialogue one another. I just do wish that there was more translators there, so I could just know exactly what they're saying for Japanese wrestlers, because it would make it more impactful. So with that being said, I guess the storytelling would have to go, of course, to New Japan. Another aspect of what New Japan versus WWE, which obviously it kind of seems like New Japan is just winning all this, but I mean they do have a lot of good qualities. And another one is, of course, that they give the wrestlers opportunities. And you kind of often see that more in New Japan than in WWE. There are instances where, yes, they'll have, like, John Cena defend his title, his U.S. title, open challenge against all these other wrestlers, where you know the fact, hey, he's not going to lose it. He's not going to lose to one of these people. That's just not going to happen. You know, like Roman Reigns defending his title, blah, blah, blah. It's just not going to happen. There's just a kind of level that WWE has where it's like they're not going to make these wrestlers lose their championships. But they're not going to make these wrestlers lose their championship in these matches. Over in New Japan, you often see title changes in dramatic matches, sometimes without even knowing that that was actually going to happen. One in particular was this wrestler Michael Elgin, who won the Never Openweight Championship against Hiroku Goto, I believe. And holy crap, the match was incredible, and he won the title. However, like shortly after he lost it, I was kind of surprised, you know, that happened. And you do kind of see that as well in WWE, where it's like Zack Ryder won the championship at what was it, WrestleMania, in a ladder match, 6-man ladder match. But then he lost it on Raw against The Miz in his rematch. But those are just kind of a little bit different, because I don't even get to see the match where Michael Elgin lost. But at the same time, there's all these other tournaments exactly, you know, to bring up superstars. And that's something that just WWE doesn't really do. It's something where WWE just kind of falls flat. They don't really, like I said, give a lot of the wrestlers these big opportunities. And obviously they do. They want to see different stars rise to the top, you know? Or what was it?
Because I am the vegan cream of the crop, and the cream always rises to the top, fools!
And yeah, so that obviously goes to New Japan, because they want to push as many superstars as they can. They do want to create stars of these wrestlers. And that's why they have these young lions, these wrestlers who are kind of like in the dojo, where, you know, just starting out, like literally just amateur wrestlers, you know, trying to get them and hone the craft. And they have to go through a series of matches to become something. And they have to go on incursions to pretty much different wrestling organizations. And they have these, like with CMLL in Mexico, they have to go there, or to the United States or United Kingdom. There's a lot of wrestling companies out there, and usually they have to go and wrestle and pick up like all these different techniques so they can find who they are. An example of that was Jay White. Jay White was a young lion, and he went on excursion to different places, and it was honestly it was interesting, because that's how I actually got to see him wrestle. It was in ROH, Ring of Honor. I got to see him wrestle, and I was like, "Whoa, this guy looks pretty cool. He has like cool style, and his wrestling style kind of also reminds me, wrestling style and look kind of reminds me of Kenny Omega." and he is one of the top wrestlers right now in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And obviously, Jay White went back to New Japan, and it was amazing to see him there and see him kind of rising to the top and developing his character. There are a lot of wrestlers that kind of need that in WWE. WWE doesn't really do a great job. They really kind of push gimmicks and try to make wrestlers, okay, this is your gimmick. This is what you are, you know. And sometimes that works, and sometimes that just falls flat. Sometimes they just reuse gimmicks from other wrestlers, say the same thing. It's really horrible what they do. And NXT is supposed to be like a developmental base for these wrestlers. But sometimes some wrestlers get called up and they're not prepared. Kind of like Apollo Crews. He just, like, his wrestling was amazing, but he didn't have much character development. And that was on main roster WWE, on Vince, who called him up, thinking that, oh, I want this guy now. He's ready. But that's just not the case. But yeah, that's just something where it's very important, you know, for developmental of these superstars to kind of get that push. But WWE is just kind of does things all wrong. There's times where they give more pushes to certain wrestlers where other wrestlers are just kind of left out in the dust. It's really sad because you don't really get to see a lot of flourish. Like Cody Rhodes, for example, he was in WWE, but he was just kind of like being mistreated. He just wasn't really given these opportunities. He had to play this Stardust type of character, and he played them well. However, he wanted more. He wanted to do more. He had ideas, but creative was just like, no, this is what you're going to do. That's all you're going to do. And once he left, he became even a bigger star than what he was in WWE. Everyone he's treated with the utmost respect in the Indies, in New Japan, Ring of Honor, and other promotions where he goes. And he gets to be more creative. He gets to do more of what he does. And he has just rebranded himself as, of course, the American Nightmare, Cody. Obviously, it's one of the most amazing things I have seen, and if you haven't seen it, I highly suggest you watch it. But yeah, obviously that goes, of course, to New Japan, just for what they're capable of doing with. Now, pay-per-view wise, WWE has a lot of pay-per-views, and New Japan, I'm not sure so much. Sometimes like it changes. They usually have more of tournaments. But when they do have their pay-per-views, they exceed expectations. Whereas in WWE, they kind of just let you down. I honestly cannot tell you the last time I saw a pay-per-view where I was just like, oh my god, WWE pay-per-view, that was so incredible. That was like 5 stars. It was so great. No, I honestly could not tell you the last time I actually saw a great pay-per-view. They've all just been letting me down. There's maybe one good match at a pay-per-view, but then that's it. And a lot of times the matches that you think were going to be great just let you down. They, whether it's creative, the events just say, no, we're cutting down their time. We're not going to give them that. A prime example was this past WrestleMania. it was pure trash. Let's face it, okay? Let me steal something from Kurt Hawkins. Let's face the facts. WWE's pay-per-view WrestleMania was just pure trash. I honestly didn't really enjoy it. Shinsuke versus AJ was atrocious. I think Lesnar had a match. I honestly don't even remember. I honestly don't even know. I think it was. Oh yeah, Lesnar against Goldberg. I think that was a match. Oh, it was bad. The Usos finally get to be at WrestleMania. Have their WrestleMania moment against the Bludgeon Brothers, and that match was trash. It was so freaking bad. They didn't get that opportunity. It was just cut down to like a few minutes, and they were just defeated instantly. And it was horrible because you had seen the rivalry with the New Day, the Usos, and then you'd expect something even grander, but it didn't happen. I'm glad for the Bludgeon Brothers because obviously Luke and Harper, Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, obviously they deserve those titles, to win those titles after all the shit that they've been through. It even goes further back, but yeah, it's horrible. It's really horrible. However, New Japan just kind of exceeds a lot of expectations at times. There have been times where I was just kind of like, a little disappointed with certain matches of like, oh, I thought this match was going to be better than what it was. And that one of those was actually Kenny Omega versus Y2J, Chris Jericho. I honestly thought that match was going to be bigger than what it actually was. I was expecting like a 5-star match or even bigger. Because in a way, people saw this as WWE versus, New Japan. But it just really disappointed. First of all, Jericho was, I don't know what the hell was going on with him. His look and everything. But in the ring, it was just honestly, it was just bad. It was okay. It was like at least, 3.5 stars? 3.5 stars, the most that I would say. It was pretty bad. It was just a lot of, it was like kind of like a hardcore match, but it just kind of fell down. I expected something much more, but it just wasn't. And it's sad because actually Chris Jericho had an amazing, I believe, like 4-star, maybe 5-star match with Tetsuya Naito in their rivalry. However, we just haven't seen Chris Jericho, and he has the IC title. But I think it's just very disappointing what the hell's, just with WWE. Because WWE has all these pay-per-views, and just to prolong these rivalries, to make them long-term rivalries, they have certain wrestlers get screwed over. Where that doesn't really happen in New Japan. A lot of New Japan wrestlers, every match that they have, they basically win clean. For the most part. I mean, Toru Yano is an exception. But yes, and I think definitely in this category, of course, New Japan wins. And I think that's something that WWE needs to kind of learn. I think WWE definitely needs to learn a lot from New Japan, especially when it comes to the schedules. I obviously don't know much about the schedule from New Japan because it kind of varies. From what I heard is that sometimes it depends on like the availability of certain places, but pay-per-views are in general usually around certain times. And they don't have a ton of pay-per-views as well, which gives a lot of wrestlers, time to rest and, recover from injuries. New Japan does kind of have more injuries as well from wrestlers. However, WWE also hasn't because of their crazy schedule. It's crazy to me the amount of time they spend out on the road, traveling to different places. And here's the thing. I don't know if WWE even covers those fees or anything. The travel, all those types of things of certain wrestlers. So that kind of puts things at odds where it's like, okay, well, what the hell's going on? Like, they're just, they're gassing out all these wrestlers. It's really freaking horrible. That's how a lot of them just get injured. It's just like a lot of mileage, wear and tear on their bodies. Where New Japan, yeah, they're more leaning with their time, and I think WWE has a lot to learn from it. So in a way, I guess this video wasn't really much of a New Japan versus WWE, but more like why New Japan is better than WWE. I mean, but yeah, thank you so much for watching. For more videos, click there. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Visit Patreon, all that good stuff. I really do appreciate it. And I will catch you guys another exciting episode of Fusionverse. Oh, the next is episode 90. I gotta do something special.
Okay, lady, I love you. Bye.